Hi folks, today we're harvesting wild leeks in the forest. They look just like this. They have a very distinctive garlic oniony flavor. They look like a green onion and they're very delicious. It takes an extremely long time for the leeks to grow back, and it's just good stewardship to harvest responsibly. So I'm going to show you how to harvest the leeks, and we're going to clean them and take them back to the kitchen where we're going to make a potato leek soup.
So I've been digging leeks for years, ever since I was a child. It's a very good wild edible to teach children because it's very easy to identify because of the smell and the way they look. There aren't a lot of look-alikes that are dangerous to eat, so it's really easy. If you're going out with your family, this is a good one to start out with. I like to work from the edge of the patch because you don't want to trample over the leeks. Like Rita said, they take a long time to recover from damage. So working from the edge is a bit more responsible way to harvest. You want to use a pitchfork or a spade usually. I like the fork because it shakes the dirt off a little bit. And you're just going to go in. They're just like a green onion, so you want to go down probably 4 or 5 inches. And you're just going to turn the soil up a little bit and just work around in a little spot so you can get some loose, just like this. And depending on the dirt where you're at, sometimes it's a little more work than other places. There's some roots here where I'm working at, but they just come up nice and easy. And you just want to shake the dirt off them and pick them out nice and gently so that you don't bust them all up. Give them a shake. They come apart just like you would a big patch of onions if you were picking onions. And you want to put the dirt back so that you're not disturbing things as much as possible. That'll just make sure that everything grows back the way it was before. There we are. So I just wanted to show you some plants you usually find around the same area and sometimes growing in with the leeks. You've got trilliums here. Anybody who lives in Ontario knows what a trillium looks like. For the rest of the world, they're a beautiful little white flower. They've got 3 leaves on them. As far as I know, they're not edible. I know in Ontario you can't pick them anyways because they're the provincial flower. And then you also have these little guys, yellow ones. Sometimes they're red. They're called a trout lily. Apparently you can eat them. I've never done it. So I wouldn't recommend doing that without a little bit of more research. But you usually find them all mixed together. They all grow in the same type of soil. So if you see one, you usually see the other.
So John dug us up enough leeks for a pot of soup. So, like I said before, you just get enough of what you need. You don't get greedy and take more than you need to. So I'm going to take you back to the kitchen and we're going to make up that potato leek soup for lunch. Hi folks, welcome back to my home. What I've done here for our soup is I've washed and cleaned our leeks, chopped a little bit of bacon, and I've got some potatoes here that I'm just going to peel and cube up. For this pot of soup, I'm actually going to use 3 large potatoes. I don't need any more than that because the pot of soup that we're making isn't that large. So all you want to do is just peel and cube them into small cubes. I have some cold water standing by here to put the potatoes in so they don't go brown. So I'm just going to dice these potatoes into just a small size dice. I don't want them too large because it's just making a small batch of soup. About that size is plenty large enough. And you're just going to put it in the water while you chop up the rest of your potatoes. Same thing so they don't go brown. We're not going to need our potatoes for a few minutes, so we're just going to set them aside for now, and we're going to work on our leeks. Now, like I said before, I've already washed and cleaned them, but if you can see here, they're still attached to their roots. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my knife and just snip off the bottom of the root. Just try not to take off too much of the leek. It's always a good idea to have your all your vegetables and all your preparations done for your soup ahead of time all at once, so that when you're cooking your soup, you're not scrambling to cut things or peel things. You'll find that cooking is a lot less stressful that way and a lot more enjoyable. Our soup today is going to be cooked in a cast iron pot. You all know by now how much I love cast iron cookware. So what we're going to do first is we're just going to preheat. We're going to preheat our cast iron pot to about medium high. And we're going to let that come up to temperature. And then we're going to add our bacon and we're going to get that sauteing. I think our pot is plenty well hot. So what I'm adding here is a half a pound of chopped up bacon. So just going to get that in the pan. And just break it up. So we're going to leave this bacon to cook and crisp up and brown up in our pan here. You're going to want to leave all the fat in, all the bacon grease that comes out of this bacon. It adds a lot of flavor to the soup, and you're going to need a fair amount of fat to saute all those leeks that we have. It looks like our bacon is ready, so I'm going to add our leeks, and we're going to get our leeks sauteing with the bacon and the bacon fat. Just take your leeks and add all of your leeks all at once. They shrink down quite a bit very quickly. Just let this cook for a couple of minutes, and I would continuously stir it. And even though these leeks are small, they pack a punch and they go a long way. Our leeks and bacon have sauteed long enough. So I'm going to add those potatoes that I peeled, and I've drained them off. I'm going to add a little salt and a little pepper. Stir your potatoes. And I'm just going to top up this pot with chicken broth, homemade chicken broth, just up until the point that you cover your potatoes. What I like to do is I like to cook the potatoes in the chicken broth first, and then after they're cooked, we're going to add our cream and our milk. I don't like to cook the cream, milk, and the chicken stock together, just because when your soup comes to a boil, you have more likelihood of curdling your soup. So we're just going to leave that to cook until the potatoes are done. Our potatoes are now cooked in the soup. I'm just taking the potatoes and I'm just pressing them against the side of the pot. And if they pop and they just kind of come apart, then they're done. It doesn't take too long. They're just small pieces of potatoes. So, as you can see, we still have a fair amount of chicken broth left in the pot, which is good. That's why I had the lid on. I wanted to keep the chicken broth inside. If you leave the lid off, you see the steam will just evaporate. And so to this, I'm actually going to turn it down a little bit. I'm turning it down just to below low. Pardon me, just below medium. And I'm going to add milk. This is 1 liter of milk. And for a little richness, I'm adding a cup and a half of 10% cream. Just give that a light stir. Now, this is a point where you have to be a little bit more mindful of your soup. You have to stay around it a fair amount more. If your soup comes to a boil, if it comes to a hard boil, you really run a high risk of letting your soup curdle. And that will just spoil the entire batch of soup. So you want to stay near it and you want to be very attentive to it. Don't have it too high. Just let this come up to temperature. And once it's come up to temperature, we're going to add a little cornstarch to it just to give it a slight thickening. And then we're going to leave it on the stove for about an hour just to sit and let everything that's in that soup pot work together and marry together and infuse into a really nice soup. So our soup has come to a slow boil. What I have here is just a mixture of cornstarch and water, and I'm just going to add a little bit at a time until it gets the consistency that I like it at. I'm going to turn down this a little bit more. It's only on medium right now, but these burners that I use, they're cast iron and they hold the heat like crazy. So adjusting the heat from high to something that's more low, it can be a little tricky. Just add a little and then see what happens. And I think that's good enough. Our soup smells lovely and I think it's ready to try it. I served myself up a small bowl here and I've just garnished it with a little bit of chives from the garden. That surely is the taste of spring. Go on out and pick yourself some leeks. If you know somebody that has a little bit of property or go into Crown land, you'll find this stuff pretty easily. Leeks are good until about mid-summer. They get a little tougher, but they're still there. Some people even pick them well into the fall. I've never done that before, but I prefer the spring version. So this is delicious, and thank you for watching. And I had a really great time filming this episode. If you would like, please like and subscribe. Also, please follow me on Facebook and Instagram. Well, happy foraging, and thanks a bunch again, and we'll see you next time. Thanks. Bye.